And we're recording. So Kara, the floor is yours.
Hi, welcome everybody. Happy to see you here. My name is Kara Schultz, and I am currently the Interim Dean of Undergraduate Education at Bloomsburg University. I'm also a longtime professor at Bloomsburg University. And this year, my son, Zach Schultz, is starting as a first-year student at Bloomsburg University, which will be a new experience for me to be on the other side of things as a first-year parent. So I am very interested to hear from all these experienced parents on the supporter panel this year and find out from them their tips and tricks and information on how to be a good parent. And the students can give us their side of this as well in terms of their advice on what to do and what not to do to support your college student at Bloomsburg University. And so students, you have to be really honest with us, even with your parents sitting next to you, in terms of what you want parents to and to not to do to best support you at Bloomsburg University. And parents, you can also give us your tips on what has worked well and what has not worked well at Bloomsburg University. And so we have with us tonight, we have with us several parents and with students in various stages of their education here at Bloomsburg University. They also play different roles here at Bloomsburg University. And so I'm going to let each of the people introduce themselves to us. I do see that somebody has a hand up. I'll let them ask their question in a minute. I see somebody's helping them. And so let's start off with Rebecca. Let's start off with you and Adam.
So I'm Rebecca Tubaker. I'm actually a professor in the nursing department. So I primarily teach at the sophomore level, but I also am a co-director for the nursing learning community. So I do deal with all of our freshmen that also come in. And this is my son, Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam Tubaker. I'm a junior in the digital forensics program. That's all I gotta say.
Okay. So
that's perfect, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. And Tom and Sarah, you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Schultz. Hi, everyone. My name is Tom Fletcher. I'm Vice President for Student Success and Enrollment Services. So that role is really working with our team to not only bring students to the university, but help keep our students satisfied and successful at the university to reach graduation. So we've worked very hard in recent years. Dr. Schultz has been an integral part of leading many of those initiatives, but what's important to us is not only to get the students to Bloomsburg, but once we do that, is to help them navigate through their 4 or 5 years successfully, support their success, and certainly support their success after graduation. So with me, I have my daughter, Sarah.
I'm Sarah Fletcher. I'm moving on to my sophomore year of college, and I'm doing the dual certification in early education and special education.
Welcome. And down in my lower left-hand corner, I don't know how it appears on your screen, we have Claudia Thrush and her son, Cooper.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for hopping on to join us for this session this evening. My name is Claudia Thrush. As Dr. Schultz said, I am the Vice President for Administration and Finance here at the university. Probably the biggest thing that would be of interest to the group on this call is that the Student Billing Office falls under my area of responsibility. And so if you have any questions around student billing, I am happy to answer them as we move on. And with me, I have my son, Cooper.
Hello, I'm Cooper. I'm going into my junior year, and I'm a finance major, and I'm also part of the Honors College here at Bloomsburg.
Great. And also with us tonight, we have Jim McCormick, and Jim's son, Nick, has graduated. Right. So he's kind of on the other side, and Nick is off and away. So he's not with us tonight, but Jim is.
So good evening, everyone. Jim McCormick, I'm the Associate Vice President for Student Development and Campus Life. So that really means I get all the fun stuff, everything from housing to food to rec center to care union and activities and things of that nature. And I guess the biggest thing is fast forward 4 to 5 years, they actually take off and launch their lives, and it's all wonderful. With Bloomsburg University being really oftentimes not even a destination that they thought was going to be as fruitful as it is. But I think that if we were to ask all the students that are with us tonight, they say it's turned out to be so much better than they had actually anticipated being, with their parent somewhere on campus.
So I would love to start by hearing from the students to start off with. And so what I would like to know for you, Nikki's here.
Yeah, I
Okay,
just wanted to
so
pop
before
in. We had
on,
some technical difficulties, but Nikki is here.
Okay, Nikki Keller. Hi, Nikki, say hi.
Oh, I would love to, but I can't start my video.
Oh, I'll help you out, Nikki.
Thanks, Jen.
Yep. Working on it.
Well, either way, I can still introduce myself. So my name is Nikki Keller, as you heard, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Brand Management here at Bloomsburg University. Myself as a Husky alum, but also have my son will be starting his junior year in the fall, and our daughter will be joining as an incoming freshman. So we're kind of in the same boat as many of you as well. So I'm happy to help in any way that we certainly can.
That's great. Thank you.
Nikki, try your camera now.
Thanks, Jen.
Yep.
And also, oh, great. And also with us tonight, kind of in the background, helping us out is Jen Hunsinger. Jen, you can wave. Jen will be answering your questions on chat. Jen is our director of our first year experience and student in transition program. And you'll probably see her around quite a bit, helping out throughout your orientation series experience. And you'll see her around a lot. So she'll be answering your questions and helping out. Is there anything else that we need to pay attention to before we move on to questions? Okay, so onwards to questions. So I'd like to hear from the students to start off with. And what I was wondering from the students is if you were able to give parents advice, your parents or any parents advice, what would you like them to know about students starting off for their first year? What do you think is the best piece of advice that you could give a parent to a college student starting off that they should or maybe should not do for their first year student? It's not a test. Any thoughts on that?
I'll say something. It's for me, my first year was all about patience, because high school it's a big leap from high school. It's a lot different. So everybody takes stuff at their own pace. So my biggest advice would be patient. Try to help them with the biggest change, but in the end, like, you just gotta let them figure it out on their own.
That's Sarah, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes like it's a little nerve-wracking, especially like making that jump from high school to college, and the experience is different, but patience is definitely important, and like don't stress out either. I think sometimes like getting worked up and stuff like that.
Cooper?
Yeah, I think the first couple of weeks to months can be pretty difficult of an adjustment. So I would say from a parent standpoint, check in on your kids, make sure they're doing well. And especially that first couple of weeks, make sure they're all right, but make sure they know it's a big difference, big change, big leap.
Yeah. So we'll flip over to the parents. If, as you look back on getting your students sent off, I actually, my son just graduated in December from Edinburgh University. But as you look back on that, getting your son or daughter, or maybe you have had multiple kids go off to college, what piece of advice do you think you would want to give a parent to a student starting off in college?
Actually, I'll start on that one. I think that the transition as first year students is the transition to having adult conversations with your student. The time frame in high school where you know that they have to be home under their junior driver's license at a certain time, and then you maybe expand that a little bit later on, but you pretty much always know where your kids are. And when they go to their first year, again, the transition is very much different for most than high school. And I would say from a parent perspective, as actually the students had already said, be patient. Okay, so when you get that C, when your student used to be an A and high B student, don't freak out. Okay, again, having seen what happened at the end, my son had a very typical first year, but it took him a really long time to make it to cum laude. And then ultimately in his major, he was actually a 4.0 in one of his bachelor's degrees and a 3.7 in his core competencies. So again, first year's transition, support, understanding, and help and advice, rather than they hide your grades and you talk to them about how much money you're wasting on them, is not productive for anybody. So
I think it provides a nice opportunity. The first semester, it's certainly a huge transition from high school into college, and becoming more independent, being more independent with your time. And I really think it's important for parents, as others have said, to be patient, but also to encourage them to get out, to meet people, to try to find your people, and to also keep encouraging them with arming them with the knowledge that they're really in a safe space here at Bloomsburg University. There are tons of supports and resources for anything that your student may encounter. And all they need to do is ask. It's a very friendly place. They can ask their community assistant, they can ask, a faculty member, one of their professors, other students, any offices really on campus. And so I think just reminding students that all of that stuff's available, and to make connections, not only with, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, the adults on campus, but their peers, and to have fun while doing it, and know that first semester is difficult. But once you kind of get through that and you make that adjustment, it really becomes, so much fun and just a great place to kind of spread your wings and move forward.
I would definitely echo that. And I think that, it's a challenge too, as parents, right? We have to kind of embrace a new role for ourselves, which is certainly a unique circumstance that many of us find. But I think one of the, as Claudia was mentioning, in terms of just making sure that you're helping to encourage your student to get involved, to be active, to, maybe leave the door open in the residence hall, and start meeting people, in various ways, and taking advantage of some of the resources that are available. I do think it's important too for us as parents to kind of remind our students to be proactive. Don't wait to see your academic advisor until things are a little grim or maybe a little challenging. So, as an example. And also, just as you mentioned, and as others have said, but utilizing all of the many resources on campus, even kind of within the residence halls where the students will be living. You've got community assistants or CAs living right on your floor with you that are fellow students. They are peers that maybe can help guide you as well into, some of these services and supports that are available. So definitely, I think just kind of keeping yourself open and helping to remind your students to keep themselves open to all of these different things is definitely very helpful.
Yeah, and I know my son, Zach, has decided that he's going to commute. And so, I've been a little concerned about, what that means for him making the kinds of connections that my older son was able to make because he lived in the residence halls. And so we've talked a lot about being involved in a learning community because they do intentional activities, getting involved in student clubs, and that, you have to be really intentional about the ways that you do meet friends and get involved in the campus life, because there are lots of different ways to get involved. So I'm wondering from the students, what kinds of activities and organizations, where have you found your places to get involved and engaged on campus?
For me, my freshman year, it was definitely clubs. I went to 3, stayed in 1. But I would say that out of the 4 or 5 guys that I talk to now the most, it would definitely be from that first experience in that club. But it goes everywhere. I know people who have met their best friends now in cafeteria or in the line at Chick-fil-A. So it happens everywhere. But my best advice, I'd say, is go out and like do clubs and stuff like that. If you're a big sports person, do sports, you know, get to know people who are interested in the same stuff you are.
Anything else from Sarah or Cooper on advice about getting involved in campus life?
Go ahead.
I would say getting to know people in your classes would be a huge help, especially for me, which it was harder online, but my first semester freshman year, you could study together, and then that way you can work on projects and you can develop friendships that way. It also helps if they're in your same major too.
Since I was a freshman, it was like my first year on campus, and with COVID, it was hard, but definitely like try and do it like online, obviously, because classes are online, so you can't really meet many people in person. And it was harder with clubs, but I definitely look forward to it hopefully next semester.
That's the plan, right? Okay. So as you think about the resources, and this can be from anyone, that you feel like have really helped you to be successful academically, in other ways on campus, what kinds of resources do you feel like have really worked well that Bloomsburg University in particular offers, that you feel like have helped you, that you would want students to know about, you'd want parents to be able to know about? I'll say one that recently just came. Nikki helps with a parent resource newsletter. And
I'm just putting the link to sign up in the chat. Thanks, Kara. Good plug.
Please be sure and sign up for the parent newsletter, because we push a lot of information out about when things are coming up and what you can help to remind. So that's a really great resource. But other resources that have been really helpful to you as students, parents?
There's a parent connection that the students can sign up for as well. I can find the link and put it in the chat, which I think is slightly different than the parent newsletter. But the other thing that I think is important as parents to remind your students is the university really uses email heavily to communicate with students. And I see Tom and Sarah smiling, and my son is probably smiling too, because students this age, it's not really their preferred method of communication. They would rather get it on Snapchat or, you know, in a text.
TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok. We don't do that so much here. And we really do try to coordinate our communication out to students so they're not getting overwhelmed. But the reality is they do get quite a bit of email. You know, I've encouraged my student, Cooper's going to be a junior, as he said. My younger son is going to be an incoming first-year student here this fall. And, you know, I've been on him since he made the decision to come to Bloomsburg. Check your email once a week, at least, because that's how we communicate. And you just need to get used to doing that. And if they do that, then they'll be well informed. And it'll also help them as they progress in their career. And they leave Bloomsburg, because in the business world, education world, wherever you go, email is really the primary means of communication. I know it's not the greatest for this age group of people, but it's really how we communicate. So I cannot stress that enough. It's very important to check your email.
That's a great point, Claudia. And keeping in mind too, that for the students to understand from the Marcom office, we do publish throughout the academic year, twice a week. There is a student newsletter as well that goes, you know, directly to the students, has important information, deadlines, timelines, but also some upcoming events or interesting things that, you know, you might want to be in the know about. But those are two important emails. I did put in the chat. Hopefully everybody sees it. Claudia, it is the same list, actually. We just kind of utilize the same. Yep. So it's through the business office. It will help with university-wide communications that, you know, from a financial or billing issue. But then, for example, we've kind of been able to use that as well from the marketing side for this parent newsletter, as I said, that goes out on the last day of every month. But also, for example, through this past year and a half, actually, We've sent at least weekly, if not more frequently, COVID updates, different things like that parents would be receiving as well. So definitely it is an opt-in thing. So please do make sure that you sign up for that. And the next link I'll put in, something to keep in mind too would be a link on our website for all of the various social media channels that we do use. We utilize them quite heavily as what I would call our flagship social media accounts with the university. But certainly I think most of you are probably very well versed with our admissions team and the great work they do there as well. But from the parent perspective, if you haven't already connected with us, I would encourage you to do that. So I'll send you that link and you'll be surprised perhaps to see just how many accounts there are. You don't have to follow them all, but at the very top of the page would be the flagship accounts. I do encourage you on the platforms that you use to engage with us in that way as well.
Yeah.
And if I can add, in terms of an incentive for the students themselves, check your students' accounts as well. So that you can avoid scheduling holds and other things that might happen because you've not done everything that you're supposed to do. So there are triggers on there to tell you that there are actions you must take. And again, when it's time to start scheduling things of that nature, you really want that time, day, and section. And you really hate to run into a block because you forgot to tell your parents that a bill is due or something along those lines.
Yeah, I will also add, if you do sign up for the parent connection, all of the sort of basic, it's not going to have information specific to your student, but it'll tell you when we've done a billing. You can log on to MyHusky, that's our student information system, to check your account balance, information, et cetera. Your student can also assign you a guest pass so that you can go in and keep on top of their finances. We're not allowed to speak with parents without a FERPA release. It's a federal law, and these students are adults. And so I know that sometimes doesn't sit real well with parents who are paying the bill, but it's the way it is. And we do follow that. But if you sign up for some of this stuff and talk to your student about giving you access to their MyHusky account, you'll be in a good knowledge base. I do see a question. When is the first bill due? It's due the first day of classes. We'll be sending out the first round of fall billing, usually the end of July, early August, with the first day of classes, which I think is August 23rd-ish. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. Another thing that I think, having worked in this I've been a professor for 30 years, and I've been working really actively in student success for the past 10. One of the things that we know, and this is not unique to Bloomsburg, this is national, is that students are often very hesitant to go to their faculty advisor and to meet with them, or even to go to their professors and to ask for help in a class. So professors always have office hours. And one of the common misperceptions that we hear is that they don't want to bother a professor during their office hours because they think they're working during their office hours. Office hours aren't for professors to accomplish their work. Office hours are set up for professors to be available to meet with students. I've really thought that we need to change the name of office hours and call them student meeting hours, like open hours for students to come and meet with you. That's what office hours are. They're designed for students to come, to be available for students to come and engage with you, to meet with you, to answer students' questions. And it's so funny to talk to faculty who are super frustrated that students don't come to see them, and then to talk to students who are like, oh, I don't want to bother faculty, because there's this huge disconnect between the two. And so, if you can help us to convince students that yes, indeed, faculty want you to come and see them, both your faculty advisors and your instructors are, in your classrooms, are looking for you to come and meet with them. They want to engage with you. And then the other thing we know is that, a big part of what makes college meaningful is the relationships that you build. The relationships with your peers, the relationships with staff, and the relationships with faculty. Like when students talk later after they graduate about, and you all haven't graduated, but it would be interesting to talk to your son, Jim, and see what he thinks. But when students talk about what made college worth it for them, it's the relationships. It's always the relationships that they made in college that made it worth it. And it's often those relationships they build with faculty members and the experiences that they were able to have during that time. And so if you can work with us to help students to think about those experiences, and we have lots of them that they can accomplish while they're here through our professional career experience center, through different programs that are going on in the academic departments, and even for our exploratory students through our undeclared. You know, if your student doesn't yet know what major they want to be in, we've got all kinds of programs that they can get involved in. So I just really want, you know, to put that out there as something for you to be thinking about, because in the work that I've done, that's probably the piece of advice I would most like to get out there to parents is, you know, help us to convince them that faculty aren't scary, because the faculty really do want to engage with students by and large. I suppose we have a few people who aren't the friendliest, but by and large we are. Rebecca's a faculty member.
I'll echo all of that. And as a nursing professor here at this university, you know, we have a large number of advisees that we have. And so I do a session of Flipgrid with all my advisees, as well as all of my students in my class. Short video clips that they can perform, introducing themselves, asking the most scariest question only to me, and then they get a video back, but it's less of a email type format because, you know, they want it short and sweet, but it also gives that personal connection and we get to know them. So then when they enter my class or darken my door during office hours, which I just call open office hours, just so you know, because it seems like I get a lot more kids line in the hall that way, at least in previous semesters. So hopefully the fall we're back to normal with that. But I agree, this is a partnership between the instructors and the faculty members and the students, and we're here for that student success. And so we want to see you, work with you, and know of your struggles and your successes so that we can make sure that you're successful here at BU.
Yeah. All right, so on to a fun question. And anyone can answer this question. I suspect the students know more than we know. But I'm wondering if you have found any hidden gems, best place to, now, Sarah, you probably haven't had as much of an opportunity with COVID, but we're gonna be back in person in the fall, right? We know that. So
she's done very well finding eating spots, let me tell you.
Okay, all right, good. So what is the, you know, maybe a best place to eat, maybe a best place to study, you know, whatever it is, what's your favorite hidden gem that you're willing to share at BU or in the surrounding area? I didn't give them the questions in advance in case you can't tell. They're having to think on the fly. Anyone?
For me, it's Steak and Shake. It's cheap enough so that it takes your meal slip and you don't have to pay any extra flex. So I went there a bunch after, of course, going to the cafeteria for a little bit. But eventually you'll be like, I want something different. So there's a place you can go if you don't, it's like short on flex from going to Chick-fil-A too much. But that was definitely my favorite spot.
I like Steak and Shake. Anybody else? Favorite place, favorite hidden gem, some place to try out?
This faculty member likes the Big Chill, just so you know. So
downtown, we have a great ice cream store.
Right, right. And only when the cow's out is it open. So if you look for the cow, you can find some good ice cream, right?
Yeah, and it's all homemade ice cream, right?
Yeah, it sure is.
Steph's Subs downtown is pretty good. Right on the corner, lots of students like to go there. We have lots of sub and pizza shops. Downtown, there's a sushi shop right at the bottom of campus. Lots of different places for people to go and try out that are off campus. But we also have a wonderful, you know, a lot of places on campus to eat. Chick-fil-A, Qdoba, Rungo's. I mean, Jim can speak to this better than I can off the top of his head, but we have a lot of good places. Starbucks, a couple Starbucks. We have Subway. The Commons is wonderful. The dining hall, the food is terrific and lots of options. So I don't think any students will go away hungry. That's for sure.
I would definitely recommend, if you haven't already heard of this, the cookies at the Commons are legendary. They are freshly baked and they are absolutely a delight. And also on upper campus, from a dining perspective, Monty's is a beautiful view. And I believe, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's still restaurant nights, right? Where they do like the, a little bit higher end thing, and it's all still part of the meal plan, as I recall. So I think that's also something a little different if you're looking to get out and get up to upper campus.
And even, things such as, most of the baked goods on the campus are made in-house. We make our own ice cream as well. So it can rival the Big Chill, I'm sure.
It's kind of like Cold Stone, a little bit. Cold Stone Creamery, that kind of ice cream. I think it could be dangerous if you were a student eating there every day. It's good though.
In the good weather months, they do food trucks that they park outside on campus. So up on the quad area, there is kind of a taco truck, and they do the best fish tacos. I am a fan of fish tacos. I'm from the West Coast, and they rival good West Coast fish tacos. So if you're willing to wait a little while, they are not instant because they make them fresh. But they are, when it's open, they are really, really good fish tacos. So that's probably my favorite place to eat on campus is the fish tacos.
So I'd just like to say to parents as well, I just want to give a shout out to our contracted food provider, which is Aramark, because in my opinion, I think in all our opinions, they're just exceptional. And what's really helpful to know is, I've worked with some students that might have some dietary restrictions, and they're really accommodating. They go all out. Their staff are phenomenal. As you know, it's been a tough, crazy year. And, Jim's area and his leadership, we've had to house students through quarantine and isolation. And, the food service staff goes out of their way to provide special box meals and lunches and dinners, and they have them ready to be delivered right to the door of the students in isolation. So they really go all out at all times. So no need to worry for your students who will be living on campus for the first few years regarding food service. And it's everywhere, all locations, and no worries about that. Other probably just controlling how much you're able to eat, because we do have a lot of options at all times.
Yeah. The library has some amazing spaces for studying. So if you are commuting, you can always go up to the library and find a place to study. I work now up in the 3rd floor of the library, and even during COVID, it was a very popular place. We had regular studiers up there working throughout the year. We miss them now. It's quiet up there now. But we had our regular study groups up there throughout the spring. But we have study rooms, we have tables and chairs, and there's just all kinds of study carrels. So there's all kinds of spaces in the library that you can go to and find a place. There's also spaces in the residence, not the residence halls, in Care Union that are open that you can go and hang out in, that have some really nice open places. So there's all kinds of places, plus the quad is just beautiful to just hang out on. So there's lots of open places and spaces around campus for hanging out. The other place is that downtown we have 2 really nice coffee shops. Fog and Flame, and what's the new one, Jen?
Brewskis.
Brewskis and more.
There we go. I haven't been there yet, but I hear it's very nice. Somebody was putting pictures on Facebook today. So other pieces of maybe advice about moving into the residence halls. I have not done that. So those of you who have moved in the residence halls, any things that you think, you know, are essential pieces of advice that you would want parents to know about moving your kid into the residence hall. By the way, I think we do a really good job of moving people into the residence halls. I have been one of the movers.
It's very smooth. I can say that. I was actually really in awe in you know, my line of work here at the university. That was an area that I really hadn't crossed over in my work. And you know, when my husband and I moved Cooper in his first year, it was just amazing how smooth it is. It's kind of like the welcoming committee where, you know, you have our HOWs, our Husky orientation workshop leaders. They kind of descend upon all the families. They load your, you know, all your stuff up. You pull up. They load it in a cart. They take it out and put it in your room, and then you set up. I mean, it's very efficient and very easy. I think, you know, one of the things that helps, you know, if you're somebody like me that's a bit of a planner, thinking, oh my gosh, what are they going to need when they're there? And I'm saying this, my son lives in a residence hall and we live in Bloomsburg, so he's not far from me, right? If he needs something, he's very close to home. But you know, if you're coming more of a distance, there's lots of, you know, you can Google what do you need for your dorm essentials, what do they need, what do they not need. I will say we probably bought more than we actually needed. But you know, you live and you learn, and you know, it's pretty smooth the way we have it set up here at the university, for sure.
Yeah, I would say as a parent, it was amazing, because my son lived in the dorm as well his first year while he was at BU. And again, the HOWs they meet you, they whisk you away. It's kind of magical. I'm like, well, we're all unloaded. That was not in my timeline. It was very fast. And we were all moved in, I would probably say within an hour, you know, so it was really great.
And I would say the same thing. Sarah lived in the 7th floor of Elwell Hall. So considering you had to take elevators up and down, we were probably in and out in about an hour, which is record time, I felt. And again, it's based on the accommodations and the pleasantries provided by our HOWs. They do a phenomenal job, and they're well trained and well executed to make it a wonderful experience. It's just a great day. You know, it's something that many of us on the team just help out regularly with, you know, as part of the experience of welcoming students to campus. So don't fear arrival day. It's actually a very, very positive experience, well orchestrated.
Yeah, it is something amazing to watch. Bloom does a really amazing job. The HOWs are super helpful. And I would agree with Claudia. When we moved my son in at Edinboro, my major regret is that we took so much stuff. Really, like, what you're going to take, half it. You do not need all that stuff. And my son later said, like, Mom, why did you get all this stuff? But he was going to be like 4 hours away. And I was like, you know, he wasn't going to have a car. And I was like, you'll never be able to get anything. There was a Walmart down the road. They ran a bus to it. Like, he had a credit card. Like, come on, he could have gotten anything he needed. But, you know, he was his first time away from home, and I was panicked, and he was fine. So I would say really check yourself on how much you're bringing.
That, and we have a really fantastic package management system on campus where the turnover of packaging is really measured in minutes to hours versus days from traditional things. So, you know, if you have something, you know, Amazon's a very popular place come the end of the year at our institutions, and as well as others. And something comes in, a package is put in your name, you get a text, you come by, get a code, open the box, it's there, and another package goes right in. You know, so it's very efficient, and students get their stuff very rapidly.
Just put a link in the chat too to kind of illustrate a little bit of what Jim was just saying. And also you'll find once the housing assignments are done, that's where you can also go back and get information as to the address where you can, you know, I know you can text and email, but it's not terribly bad for them to get a little bit of mail from home, whether it's care package or just a little pick me up. So that information is there in the chat.
The wonders of Amazon Prime, right?
Right.
Jim, do we run a bus up to the Walmart for the students, or?
We do. I think it's on Wednesday evenings. We've run it. Again, a lot of it's based upon what the schedule will be come fall. Right now, we don't have any plans on changing it, but yes, we do make Walmart runs.
And do we do a grocery store run or no?
Not that was part of an expansion or a revamping of the routes that did not get approved by the students. So they kept the traditional routes. So we don't do grocery stores yet.
Okay. So one of the questions that's coming up a lot, I'll ask the students, is about what kind of computer you would recommend. A laptop, how much you need on a laptop. Do you think it needs to be anything fancy, basic? What would you recommend? Now, I know you're a digital forensic major, Adam, so you might need more than like another student.
It's definitely dependent on your major. And unfortunately with Corona, you did a lot more on your computer than you would have your first year. But if we're going back to what we're scheduled to, not really that much. I have a Chromebook is what I use, and that's more than enough for everything that I need to do. So really, don't go overboard, I would say, because they get expensive, and you really don't need to overkill it, especially with in-person classes coming back.
Well, and we do have computer labs and printers pretty available across campus. So yeah, it's pretty easy. Cooper, there was a question to you. Cooper, could you please share your experience in the Honors College?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. My first year and a half, or actually half a year until we moved out with COVID. But it was a good like community experience in the dorms. You knew pretty much everyone. And what I liked about it is you had class, specifically honors classes with other honors kids. And that was a good way to meet everyone. And actually my very first weekend at BU was a hiking trip to Mount Washington. And that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was a good introduction to college.
Yeah.
And my son was one of the guides that took them up to Mount Washington.
And the honors program does a lot of experiences. They are planning a lot of experiences for the fall. So, you know, probably here locally, just doing a lot of different experiences. We're talking about maybe doing something with going on a meditation walk in Benton. So looking at a lot of different experiences, and they are a big part of the Honors College and how it works. And I think the Honors College has been a really valuable experience for the students that are involved in it. I went to their graduation a couple of weeks ago with the honors students and heard a lot of really wonderful stories from those students. One of the questions that's being asked is, do students take their laptops to class typically? So, you know, Rebecca could probably speak to this. My experience is that it's variable. A lot of students do, some students don't. It's really up to personal preference. I don't know that professors require laptops in the classroom.
I would say, especially if we're speaking about the nursing major, a lot of our nursing classes, we require them to bring their laptop to class because we're doing a lot of unfolding case studies, a lot of virtual simulation where they have to work in groups and partners, etc. And again, that could also be an instructor preference, but we're pretty consistent across the board as we continue to grow our numbers. But I think that in speaking with my son about his classes, that it's pretty much a student preference. If they prefer to take their notes on that computer, then that's one thing. But otherwise, you know, pen and paper in the old notebook, 1940 style, right, still works out very well for our students in our classrooms.
Well, I know like with digital forensics, a lot of the programs are probably specific to the labs, right?
I spend most of my time in the computer lab. So you use the computers that they give you that are already there. And then they'll have OneDrive set up. So whatever you do there, you can go back to your dorm and finish it if it's a homework assignment. Plus with Bolt, things are very easily transferred between a computer lab and your at-home stuff.
And Sarah, education majors, any?
I had all online classes, so I was never in the classroom yet.
That's true. That's true. I keep forgetting. Cooper, how about with your major?
I'd say always keep it in your backpack just in case, because there'll be times where you need to log on the Bolt. But either you forget to turn something in, or there's always something where you might need it. I would say just bring it just in case.
Yeah. Jim, are freshmen permitted to have cars in their freshman year?
Yes, they can all bring them. However, they must be parked in what's called the blue lot, which is on upper campus. So if you are adventuresome, it is about a half an hour walk uphill to get to your vehicle, or you take the shuttle bus, which is conveniently located and runs, most of the day part. I think the last run ends slightly before 11 o'clock at night. So the shuttle buses do run. They run more frequently in terms of back-to-back buses during the academic portions of the day. They slow down as we taper into the night. But yes, you may have a car on campus, but you have to park it away from where you live. Now, once you transition to living into an apartment, if that's what you so choose, there is free and abundant parking by all of our apartment complexes.
So we've got about a little less than 15 minutes left. What kind of last minute advice? Things that you wish you maybe would have known as a parent, as a student, things that you think would be useful for parents to know, maybe particular about Bloomsburg, general about college. Any last minute tips, advice that you would like parents?
I would say probably
supporters.
The biggest, I think, thing as students migrate to college from high school is that your day is completely different than it was in high school where it was heavily managed. You have a lot of time to manage. Most of the, first year students are taking, I'd say, between 12 and 15 credits. So that's 4 to 5 classes, but there's a lot of free time. And so I think one of the biggest keys to being successful as you start out is to sort of plan your day. I mean, you don't have to plan it down to the minute, but have a plan to get out of bed in the morning, and don't, spend half your day in bed or watching Netflix or, surfing around on your phone. Have a plan to get up, get moving, go to your classes, schedule time in your day when you're going to study, take advantage of the rec center, get some exercise, get out, get involved in some groups. But I really think, a lot of times I see students, I'm part of the Leadership Council mentoring program. And so sometimes students will get themselves in a funk where, they'll sleep in as late as they can. They go to class, they might go back to their dorm, watch some movies. They get into this lull that they have all this time to do stuff. And then they're halfway through the semester and they find themselves struggling, and it's kind of too late. So I would say just kind of knowing out the gate, it's completely different than high school from a scheduling perspective. And you just have to be aware of that, I think. And I think as a parent, to sort of remind your student of that, just plan yourself out, stay on top of things. If you find yourself slipping in a course, don't wait and think it's going to get better. Go see your faculty member. They're there to help, get other tutoring support or whatever help you need. And I think if you're just intentional about knowing that, it'll make the experience a lot better, because it's so much easier to start out on a good foot than to start out on a poor foot and try to dig yourself out of that hole, so to speak. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and we have academic coaches, and interestingly, a big part of what our academic coaches work with is working on, what some people call backwards design. So they'll take a syllabus with a student and they'll break it down backwards. They'll start with the assignments that are due at the end, and they'll work backwards in the calendar in how long is this going to take you to map out in terms of really thinking about what is required to get to that final project, so that you start to think about it in that way, not just the due date, but all the things that are going to go in to getting that due date mapped out. Because I think for like my son, when he first started college, he thought somebody was going to work him through those steps. And that's not always true. Some professors will, but the vast majority won't. They're going to tell you when things are due, but working up to that final project may be entirely up to you. And so you really do need to figure out how to plan your calendar and get to that point, as well as the intentional things that are going to help you get there. So I think that's really good advice. And we do have academic coaches, by the way, speaking of that, that can help you with that if your student is struggling with getting that kind of thinking and process in place.
So I'd just like to expand a little bit. Claudia made some great points. And I just want students and their families to also be thinking about another great opportunity to get engaged in the campus, and that's through work-study employment opportunities. I'm sure all of you have applied for your financial aid, your FAFSA form, and many students qualify for work-study jobs. And there are plenty of jobs across the campus that are available. We have found that first-year students who accept work-study jobs really make a connection to a particular office, to a department, to an individual. And this almost becomes part of your extended family, people looking out for you, checking on how did this class go? How did this paper go? How was your weekend? And we found that it really helps build not only confidence in students' ability, but it's great experience, it's great exposure, and you're paid for it. So you don't have to leave campus. You can stay right here. Offices are very flexible with students, working out your work hours around your classroom schedule. Special circumstances that come up, very flexible with that. So just think about that as another opportunity and a way to get connected to various offices and individuals across campus as part of expanding your support network.
Yeah, Tom, just an example of that. So, when I was chairperson in the Communication Studies Department, our work study student was Rachel Schaefer. Rachel Schaefer went away, worked for a couple of years, came back, and was hired as our department secretary. Worked for a couple of years as our department secretary, and then applied and became one of our student success specialists, which she's doing now while she's working on her master's degree here. But she started off as a work study student in communication studies, which was a huge connection point for her. So just a really good illustration of what you're talking about. And when she talks, she'll talk about how that work study position was really pivotal to her finishing and connecting with college, how important it was. So no, I think that is a great point. And I see a question asking about the tutoring and writing centers. Have any of you had experience with any of the tutoring or writing that we offer on campus? No one's taken advantage of that?
I can tell you that just from a student vantage point, in my department, we send a lot of students to the Writing Center because we have a very specific mannerism in which nurses document and write, etc. And every student that has gone there has benefited from that center. They've been overly accommodating on the hours, dedication to helping with their scholarly writing and their papers and their formats. And so I can't say enough wonderful things about them. And I just asked my son here underneath my breath here, like, did you use that center? He said, no, don't talk. But as a faculty member, I can tell you that we have great success there.
Yeah, we think very, very highly of our writing center on campus. It's run by Ted Rogenbach in our English department. It's a peer writing center with a very outstanding process, very acclaimed process on campus. And absolutely students should utilize that resource. Our tutoring center is also available. We have two ways that you can get tutoring. We have a outsourced net tutor that you can get pretty much 24/7. And then we also have peer tutoring available with many of our classes. And then, like I said, we have the academic coaches that are available for general study skills. We also have our student success specialists for students who may be struggling. So we have all kinds of support for students to get resources and support across the campus. Sometimes I think it's a little difficult to find the right resources. So if you are struggling, you can raise your hand in our student success system, Husky Success, and we will help you find the right resource if you're struggling with finding out where exactly you need to be.
And if I may add, as I stated early on in the session about having adult conversations with your son or daughter, I would highly encourage you to have them engage, ask them the questions and have them seek the information, because it's going to be best for the student to seek the information firsthand rather than have to work through the filter of you, because they might say, yep, my professor's not willing to help me at all. And you'll probably might get rather aggravated by that, when in fact, the professor may not have been asked if they would help. Okay, so, and again, still stay engaged, because we're not saying everybody is perfect, but allowing students to learn beyond just the academic portion is part of what an experience on a 4-year traditional is all about. So stay engaged, have the adult dialogues, and have them make the contacts. And you absolutely should do the follow-up and say, hey, did you call your professor, or did you go to the Wales Writing Center, to make sure that they are kind of taking responsibility for themselves, because it's their grades, and ultimately their job that they're going to get someday.
Yeah. I see a question in here about the placement center. If you were placed according to either a writing placement, in terms of you have to wait to get into your foundational writing or your foundational math class, you can take tests. For the writing, it's an AccuPlacer test. For the math, it's called our ALEKS, A-L-E-K-S test. Either of those, if you take either of those tests, there's no charge for you. You can take those tests. You can take them more than once, and they will allow you to place up in terms of how you place, and not having to take these pre-classes before you move on to your foundational class in math and English. The other placement test that we have available is a foreign language placement test. And probably my biggest disappointment is how few students even take these tests. Last year, I think we had 9 students take the English placement test, 9. We have 8,000 students at Bloomsburg University. We have, 2,000 first-year students, and 9 took the English placement test. I don't know what our numbers are in foreign language. I'll look it up for you, but it's sad. And how many students in high school, you guys can tell me, how many of you, Rebecca, Sarah, not Rebecca, Sarah, Adam, Cooper, did you have a foreign language in high school?
Yeah, I took 3 years of Spanish, and especially for foreign language, even if you only took 1 year, I'd recommend taking the placement test, because you could skip Spanish 1 and go to Spanish 2. That would save you money and time and you can schedule different classes.
Thank you, Cooper.
You can tell what Cooper's mother does for a living, saving money and time. I love it.
Thank you, Cooper.
I didn't even coach him to say that.
Yes, and the best time to take it is right in June as you're finishing high school. You can take it anytime, but take it while it's fresh in your head. Don't wait until your senior year to take the test. Take it now, because now is when you remember the language. Language goes away. Take it now, take it now, take it now. Sarah, you didn't take it yet. I can tell.
You didn't take it. I'm saying, did you take it? No.
Take it now, take it now. So if there's something you're going to nag your student about, nag them about the foreign language placement test. All right. Any other tips? All right. So I saw somebody put it in. Anything else in the chat, Jen, that we haven't picked up on?
No, I think we're hitting on everything, but I'm not going to lie, and I feel terrible about this, so I got to do better on this end. But we're getting some questions about Jumpstart. So Tom or Kara, are either of you comfortable talking about who comes into Jumpstart? I can speak about the program, but I can't speak about the onboarding as much. I apologize. I'm trying to find the site, and I'm struggling to find that.
Who is admitted to Jumpstart?
Yeah, I'm getting questions on who gets in. Is it everybody? How does it work? How does that piece work? And I'm struggling.
So I can speak to it a little bit. So Jumpstart is a decision that is actually made at the time of application for admission. In past, pre-COVID, some of the determination was based on SAT performance, but as most schools have now gone SAT optional, including Bloomsburg, we're really looking at the students' academic performance. Sometimes there could be an area we feel a student can be further developed, and it's not to say that a student is behind or is deficient in a particular area. Many times it can be based on a student's major selection at the university, and we just might feel that a student did not have enough exposure to that particular major at this point. So it's really an early jumpstart program to introduce you to the university culture a week prior to when incoming first-year students arrive. We formerly used to operate it a little differently, where students would actually take summer courses for credit. We found that was not our best model. So it's really designed to help you acclimate to the campus experience. If there is an area where students might need additional support, writing skills, math skills, and you know, Dr. Schultz can speak to this, but the Jumpstart team really has done a phenomenal job, in my opinion, of doing some preparation, heavy preparation during that orientation arrival week, and actually give students the opportunity to successfully place out of a particular course, which again, back to Cooper's point, can also save you time and money along the way. So it's very important. It's also important to note that students do not incur any extra cost for this. We feel it's you know, our obligation as a university to support student success, as I said earlier tonight. So we feel that's the right way to do it as soon as they arrive on campus. So Kara, I don't know if you want to speak more about the programmatic elements.
You know, we revised our Jumpstart program about 3 years ago. The intention was to shorten the length of time, but make it really an intensive onboarding ramp designed with some very specific skills and intentional programming that would help students to really get some initiatives that would help them get set up for success. And I think some of what we saw pre-COVID was that we were having some very good results for the students that we were trying to reach in terms of student success. So we're really hopeful that we can get this geared back up in the fall, but it is targeting a very specific group of first time in college students who are generally, you know, students who have who have, what did you say are the parameters, Tom?
So we might find an academic deficiency. We also might find simply not a lot of exposure. So let's say someone is coming in as a business major, but really didn't have a lot of exposure to business related courses. That might be a trigger that we just want to get the student prepared for what to expect as a business major, just so we're sure that the student can get off to the right start.
So I'd say if you have a question about whether you're eligible, talk to your admissions counselor to find out if you're eligible for the program, and they can let you know if you're someone who is eligible to get into the program. All right, Jen, anything else that we need to pick up on? I know we're at time, a little past time.
No, I think we covered it, covered everything. I see Tom has put his contact information in there. So
Jumpstart questions, any other questions, please send them to me and I'll get you connected with the right person.
And I was just putting in, Rebecca Willoughby is our executive director for student success and first year experiences, and she is spearheading Jumpstart. And so she is more than happy to talk to anybody about Jumpstart, whether you got a letter from admissions or not. So I will put her contact information in the chat just a second.
And you got a really nice range of folks here tonight. You've got people who have been involved in a wide range across the university and a lot of different experiences. So I really want to thank you for joining us. I think this is a good kind of initial. We're really hoping that you enjoy these Zoom with Bloom, a chance to ask some general questions leading up to this orientation experience, which you can do either in person or face-to-face. Face-to-face is the same thing, in person or virtual, and then after that, we'll be having Welcome Week to welcome your students to campus, and that will be here before you know it in August. I can't believe how fast time is flying, but we're really, looking forward to welcoming students back to campus in August. It is quiet up there on campus right now, so looking forward to those orientation days and seeing students on campus again. But thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Thank you to all the panelists, especially the students, for coming out and giving us your firsthand experience, but also to the parents and supporters for telling us your experience with being a parent, as well as being an employee up at the university. Appreciate your time, and let us know if you have questions. All of us are also full-time employees up at the university, and I know we're all happy to answer your questions as well. So have a good evening. Enjoy what's left of the sunshine. I think it's coming down right now, but take care and have a good evening.
We'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.